Welcome, everyone. Our worship service will begin shortly. Please take a moment to look around the sanctuary to locate the nearest exit sign. In the unlikely event of an emergency, please proceed calmly towards this exit and head toward the parking lot. If an evacuation becomes necessary, please also keep an eye out for others who may have mobility challenges or be unfamiliar with our church. Should an emergency arise while our children are upstairs, they will be escorted from the building in the company of our dedicated adult volunteers. Our community takes care of one another. Always scary the first time. Even the adults get scared the first time, so good job. Good morning, my name is Kay Brandt and I use she, they pronouns. I have the honor of being your worship associate this morning. Please take a moment to put your mind, spirit, and cell phones in worship mode. We welcome everyone here and online to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Roanoke, and we're glad you're with us. Please take a moment to turn or stand if you wish to greet those joining us online. For anyone online who wishes to share your joys and concerns during the Lifelines portion of the service, please put them in the chat in the next 15 minutes. We acknowledge that our church resides on the traditional lands of the Tutelo and Monacan nations and was later farmed and developed through slave labor. We recognize and respect the ongoing connection to this land by generations of Black, Indigenous, and other people of color. May our gratitude and fellowship here echo and honor that rich history. Please join me in reciting our words of welcome. Whoever you are, whomever you love, however you express your identity, whatever your situation in life, whatever your experience of the holy, as you come seeking love, your presence here is a gift. Whether you are filled with sadness or overflowing with joy, needing to be alone with yourself, or eager to engage with others, all who welcome all are welcome here. And our covenant. We commit to supporting each other with respect and direct communication as we work in community to explore spiritual growth and to be a force for good in the world.
Our opening song is Surprised by Joy, and our closing song is Surprised by Joy, and that is on purpose. First, I want to invite you to really consider these words as you sing them today, and then consider them at the end of the service and think about how they might take on additional meanings to the ones that you first had. Also, there's another method to this madness, and it is to get us to sing more. All right, this is a lovely tune. I think most of you will recognize it. It's also known as the gift of love, all right? Surprised by joy, no song can tell, no thought come pompous, here we stand to celebrate eternal love, to reach for one another's hand. Beyond all other gifts is this best gift alone to mortals given, the love of parent, love of friend, attunes our hearts to bliss of heaven. Faith, hope, and love here come alive. Life's deepest treasure is made known when in forgiving, giving all inseparably two are as one. Thank you.
Thank you. I was so busy. I was like, oh. Scott, being new to Unitarian Universalism, is sometimes like, oh, I've had that. And I'm like, oh, let me tell you about things we sing all the time. And then he finds these ones, and I'm like, I mean, I know the tune. I'd never sung that one before. And I do this for a living. So that was great. Thank you, Scott. Good morning. Good morning. I am the Reverend Jen Raffensperger. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I am so honored to serve as the minister of the Unitarian Universalist Church of Roanoke. And I'm so glad to see you all this chilly but sunny spring morning. Let's enjoy it while it is not boilingly hot. We have a wonderful service today, knowing that we've recently had to say farewell to our beloved Director of Lifespan Faith Development, Jesse McEwen. We're going to take some time to think about what religious education and faith development and all that stuff is about for all of us today. So I'm going to start with some opening words this morning from Sophia Lyon-Foz, a hugely important historical Unitarian religious educator. Born in China to American Presbyterian missionary parents, Sophia followed her own spiritual path and was instrumental in shifting childhood religious education in the direction of experiential learning, allowing young people to encounter the divine in their own ways and seek their own spiritual path. So we have these words from Sophia this morning. The religious way is the deep way. The way that sees what physical eyes alone fail to see, the intangibles of the heart of every phenomenon. The religious way is the way that touches universal relationships, that goes high, wide, and deep, that expands the feelings of kinship. So at this time, I will ask Kay to light our chalice, which I'm pretty sure I didn't light the little candle in the front. And that's okay, because you can light, you want to just light it with that? There you go. Can you click that? Heck yeah, we can do this the modern way. There we go. May the light
we now kindle, inspire us to use our powers, to heal and not to harm, to help and not to hinder, to bless and not to curse, to serve you, O Spirit of life.
And now I'm going to welcome Kay up here to also kind of do our children's message with me. So, if any, we do have children's church today, so we do have something for kids to go do if they would like after this. So, but come on up, Faye. If any other kids want to come up, we have some questions. Hi, Faye. Hi. So we're gonna. Yes, you did a great job ringing the bell. Hey, welcome. But you did such a good job.
It was scary.
You did a great job.
Yeah.
So those of you right here and folks in the room, so what are some of your favorite ways to learn? Like reading books, podcasts, movies? How do you like to learn? How do you like to learn about new things? Do you watch YouTube videos? You like to read? Yeah. Okay. You like to read? Your teacher plays some videos, like in school, so you can watch them. Okay.
My dad plays video games with me.
And your dad plays video games with you. No, that's a great way to learn.
I'm trying to say something.
Oh, sorry. What else were you trying to say?
Daddy plays a video game like Castle Crashers.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I don't know Castle Crushers, but that's cool that your dad plays that with you. Okay, we want to hear what some other folks. What are some of your favorite ways to look? Hey, what's
Can
one?
I ask her a question first?
Yes,
Do you
please.
have to use your fingers when you play that game? Do you? That's a
I
pretty.
have a controller.
But you have to use your hands then?
It's my dad who has a controller. He gives it to me and a mouse sometimes.
And a mouse.
When I play.
But you have to move stuff, don't you, to make it happen? Stuff happen?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's a particular kind of learning.
Yes, Kay, how do you like to learn?
I read.
You read.
I
You're a
read,
reader.
But I'm a writer too, which
Okay.
means I have to use my hands and as well. And I learn best that way, using both.
Okay, so Kay, I asked you to help with this morning because you're a teacher, right? Or you are. What did you teach?
I taught English, but the last few years I taught social studies.
English and social. I don't know why I'm repeating it. You have a microphone. Thank you. And what ages did you teach?
Mostly 7th grade.
Ooh, awesome. No,
Honestly,
I love
most people don't progress beyond that emotionally, so it's really
All
like
right.
working with adults.
it. All right.
I don't make writing.
Oh, so you like to write, but that also means you have to go research. You have to look things up to write about them. Yeah, that's a great. Yeah, so you have to use your brain in a couple different ways. You have to ask some questions and then write down what you find the answers to. That's great.
You really like to move, don't you?
No, I'm just
Don't you like?
being so I can get attention because I try to say a thing over and over again.
I know, and that's
know.
because you like to move. It helps you learn, doesn't it, when you move?
No,
Oh no, okay.
my back hurts today.
Oh, oh
Sorry your
dear.
back hurts today. Faye,
Okay.
what were you trying? I was trying to give Maris a chance, but what did you have to say?
I'm still practicing how to.
You're still practicing. Okay. Great. Well, we all have to practice to learn to read. That's great. It's a process. I'm still practicing. Some rhymes. Well, maybe when we all go upstairs, you can share some rhymes with folks that are gathered there, because we have a lot of things to talk about today, including, Kay, you told me how you like to read. When you taught English, I already forgot the other thing you taught.
Social studies.
Social studies. Wow. When you taught that to 7th graders, what kinds of different ways did you see people learning in your classroom?
Well, we did, we tried to do a lot of things. We tried to act things out so that people could get into the character and pretend to be somebody that they were otherwise not. And we did, we wrote, we did a lot of sharing stories, things like that. We took sentences apart and reassembled them like a jigsaw puzzle so that people could kind of get an idea of grammar and kind of how things worked.
Did
without
you do
teaching
that
it.
with actual pieces sometimes? Like,
Yeah.
did you take, like, so if you, how many people here can look at, like, two pieces, like puzzle pieces, and just can see from looking at them how they fit together? Some people can. I have to pick them up and try. I cannot just look at two puzzle pieces and put them together. Like, I can get a guess, right? Like, I can have a chance of understanding, especially using other cues, but the shapes, I have to actually physically manipulate. What were you going to say? You can look, you can just tell by looking that they fit together. I wish I could.
Yeah, that's spatial
That's
intelligence
that's
right there.
spatial intelligence, right? So we know, like Kay just said, there's a lot of different kinds of intelligences and a lot of different ways that we learn.
But you know what the most important thing is?
No, Kay, what?
Well, we all have a preference for how, just like we have eyes and ears and a mouth and touch, we all have different ways of learning and we have preferences and ways we like to. But the more of them we can use together, the better we do. And the best way to learn is to teach. That's why I like teaching. I got to learn, so.
Well, I don't know what else to say about that, Kay. That's why I invited you to do this. That's 100% correct. So today, here, together, we're going to talk about different ways we learn, not just in the world at large, but here at UUCR. So right now, I'm going to invite the kids that would like to go with Bonnie, and we'll sing our kids off to class to together time. Thank you, Kay.
Hold on, my dear ones, here comes the dawn. Hold on, hold on, my dear ones, here comes the dawn.
All right. Good morning, everyone. It is so nice to see your faces. And my name is Janelle Heller. I am a member here, and I am honored to share a reflection with you this morning. So I am one of the few lucky people who grew up in a wonderful church community, a community that encouraged and supported me to question everything. I grew up in the First Unitarian Universalist Church of Richmond, and I had the opportunity there the opportunity to openly question is a rare gift to be given by any sort of religious community, as we all know. And as I grew older, I began to understand more and more how unique my experience was compared to people who grew up in a traditional religion. So in elementary school, I felt so much excitement about going to my religious education classes at the UU Church that I would even hitch a ride with neighbors on days when my parents weren't planning to go. I loved learning about the world. I loved learning about diverse religious traditions across the globe. I liked making crafts and putting on the Christmas play, but I loved that I got to question everything. I grew up surrounded by adults who genuinely cared about me with my endless questions that, like a caterpillar metamorphosizing inside its cocoon, grew into something much more beautiful as I moved through middle school and high school. Opinions! I knew how everything worked and how everything should be and what everyone should or shouldn't do about it. And thank goodness that through the UU youth group, I found other teenagers who certainly also knew everything too. Yes. And I also found loving adults who didn't roll their eyes when I needed the vegan accommodations and all the other things. So, one of the greatest gifts, though, I undoubtedly received was my 8th grade OWL education. That's the Our Whole Lives curriculum. And back then it was called About Your Sexuality, AYS. Some of you may know that. And holy guacamole, I did not want to have those conversations with my parents. Ew. Really. So I cannot express how critical it was to have trusted adults to answer awkward, uncomfortable questions about sexuality as I was figuring out who I was, learning to have my own voice, and understanding my body. At this age, I was swimming in false information because, let's be real, peer-to-peer sources from other teenagers on these topics is not going to provide the best answers. Who do you want answering a child's questions about sex? Their friends, the internet, and who do you trust with that responsibility? So I thank Brenda, one of the OWL-trained teachers, for creating that safe space for me and for my peers. Brenda, with her long dark brown curls and her thick red-rimmed glasses, made a commitment with other instructors for most of my 8th grade year to spend Sunday mornings with the group of awkward teens talking about sexuality. And thank the goddess I didn't have to have those conversations with my mom and dad. So there were really cool adults at my church, people I deeply admired and even felt in awe of, people like Joey, a man who wore a black leather jacket to church on Sunday. He also had 2 toddlers at home. And who, even with that responsibility, he volunteered with our high school youth group for years. He even took a group of us to the Unitarian Universalist Association headquarters in Boston in a big 12-passenger van. He suffered through hours of Ani DeFranco on that car ride. And he also took most of us to our very first protest on that field trip. It was against the U.S. bombing of Kosovo, and that is where I began to learn that questioning could lead to direct action and might even change the world someday. Adults like him taught me that there was no separation between social justice and environmental justice and spirituality. These concepts were written into our religious values, the words we sang in our hymns, and the weekly reading I remember reciting every Sunday at the beginning of kids' church. It went like this. We light this chalice to remind ourselves to treat all people kindly because they are our brothers and sisters, to take good care of the earth because it is our home, to live lives full of goodness and love because that is how we will make our world the best place it can be. I love those words. I must have said that out loud hundreds of times in my childhood, and then I asked my siblings to read it during my wedding on top of a mountain because those words from children's church felt so significant. In my childhood church, there were Brenda, there was Joey, there was also Pete. Pete, a tall, skinny guy who always wore blue jeans and a white button-down. He never seemed to fret about anything. He was a deep introvert. He connected with friends over books. He talked to Jesse, 15 years old, with short, spiked hair, about Alan Watts, Buddhism. Jessie was one of my best high school friends who frequently came with me to church because her family would have kicked her out of the house if they caught wind of her liberal leanings. At 16, Jessie and I declared ourselves anti-everything, really. We were anti-capitalist, anti-establishment, anti-patriarchy. We quit shaving, we went vegan, and we were anarchists too. So, thankfully, Jessie could come to the UU church and find of safety and belonging where she could speak openly about all of her ideas and question everything without fear. She lived rurally and desperately needed this safe space. Without exposure to the UU community, she wouldn't have had a place to know her views were okay and that there were actually adults out there in the world like her. And I was lucky to have a family where I could spout my very liberal, sometimes radical ideas. My mom used to tell us that at least 1 in 10 people are gay. So she was just waiting to see which of her kids or her nieces and nephews would be too. Supportive parents like that were not normal then and still aren't the norm in most households now, especially here in Southwest Virginia. And the First UU Church of Richmond High School Youth Group was a safe space for LGBTQA and genderqueer youth from across the city and surrounding counties. Half of our high school youth group came to church every Sunday, to youth group every Sunday without parents. Their parents never attended the church at all, but these youth desperately needed this space. And for some of them, I know it saved their lives. So, while growing up, Unitarian Universalist was always rainbows. It wasn't always flowers and sunshine. For most of my life, no one at school had ever heard of my religion. If they had, they'd make fun of me, saying, "Oh, but that's not really a religion," or, "Oh, you're part of that pick your own religion." And even more offensive was learning that Boy Scouts were not allowed to use Unitarian Universalists to earn their religion merit badge. I don't know if that's true anymore. So, luckily, the loving activists in my church, like Joey, raised me to persevere. And in high school, I joined a co-ed branch of the Boy Scouts called the Explorer Post. On a 10-day backpacking trip to Philmont Scout Ranch, my troop nominated and voted me in as their spiritual chaplain. I love that at this iconic Boy Scout ranch, I was the spiritual chaplain. I, who belonged to the religion at the time they wouldn't recognize for their merit badge. Oh, what joy that brought me. Every time I picked out a spiritual reading or poem for my Explorer Post troop, I felt like I was winning that tricky game at the county fair that they rigged so no one could ever win. And do you think I asked them uncomfortable questions? Do you think I got them talking about Buddhism like Pete and Jesse? I absolutely snuck in as many pagan and earth-centered readings as I could. But I do have a real question to wrap this up. I ask you to ponder, what legacy do you want to leave this church? I just shared what spending about 15 years in a UU church as a youth meant to me. And it was the people, what they taught me, the non-tangible gifts they gave me, and the impact that they had on me. And I hope my reflection has left you wondering if you might be a Joey, a Pete, or a Brenda. Could UUCR become radically intergenerational, ensuring that what we do today weaves in all ages and considers future generations now? Plaques, sculptures, buildings, and memorial gardens are truly lovely and meaningful. I hope to also leave a legacy with what is still here breathing, growing right now. Because in the end, when we are dust, the children will still be here, and then the next children, and they will be the true legacy we leave.
Thank you. That was lovely. Great explanation of what we need. Our reading today is a lightly edited short essay called Faith Development is All We Do by UU religious educator Connie Goodbread. It doesn't matter if it's from the pulpit or in the classroom. Faith development is all we do. Ministry is to challenge the people to continue their faith development. We are all works in progress. In her book, Fashion Me a People, Maria Harris talks about the 3 ways in which congregations teach. She calls them the 3 expressions of a congregation's curriculum. Curricula. Explicit expression is the clearly stated or visual representations of beliefs. We teach explicitly with the curricula we buy, the congregational visions, missions, and covenants, and the values we teach and openly uphold. Our shared UU values of love, interdependence, pluralism, equity, generosity, justice, and transformation are an explicit expression of curriculum. The implicit expression is the norms and practices of the congregation that are not articulated fully or openly. They can be silent, but they are strong and are deeply embedded in the culture. Examples: children and youth involvement in the worship or social time, how leaders are developed, lay pastoral care practices, levels of giving, expectations of membership, how the minister is expected or allowed to relate to the children and youth. This expression is also found in what is allowed, such as disrespectful, inappropriate, or toxic behavior, sabotage, gossip, not allowing leaders to lead, etc. The null expression is the paradox that exists because it is that which is omitted, what is absent, but communicates much about the congregation. For example, Some words are just not used. A congregation with no classes in Christianity, no wheelchair access or sound system, no room for people to park, no seats left in worship, no children's programs. Frequently, these three expressions of congregational curriculum can be in direct conflict with one another. Here's an example. A congregation that fights for fair wages for farm workers but does not pay fair compensation to its staff. Or a congregation that says it wants growth but then sabotages all effort towards growth. This conflict in values becomes a great problem for newcomers. The congregation does not walk its talk. We will never be perfect, and that is all right. But while perfection is unattainable, we should be trying to be the very best Unitarian Universalists we can be. If you don't know what I mean by this, then the curricula of your congregation has not done its job, because the congregation is the curriculum, and Unitarian Universalism is all we teach.
Thank you, Kay. Thank you, Janelle, for that powerful reflection. I'm very glad that you were willing to share that with us. So, I am going to share a story with you this morning that I am not proud of. Not just because it doesn't reflect particularly well on me, but because it illustrates how we can face real challenges in the realm of religious education if we aren't thoughtful about all three expressions of our congregational curriculum, as we just heard Kay read in today's essay by Connie Goodbread. As many of you know, before I was a minister, I was a professional religious educator. I served as the youth director in my home church in Columbia, Maryland. One of my favorite parts of the job, and I did love this, Janelle, it was a fantastic job, but one of my favorite parts was organizing and leading the annual pilgrimage to Boston. This trip and that congregation was for our 9th grade students who were participating in our coming of age class. This class was designed to teach our youth about the history and theology of Unitarian Universalism, and also to introduce them to the idea of the responsible search for truth and meaning that's so key to the core of our faith tradition. Throughout the year, the youth did fundraisers in order to pay for the trip to Boston, which happened in the spring as a kind of a capstone to the year's learning. All this was in preparation for the youth to create their own statements of personal belief, their credo statements, to be presented in a special worship service in May. So I had been on this pilgrimage as an adult chaperone once before, so when it was time for me as youth director to plan the next one, I felt like I had a good idea of what to expect. I worked with my supervisor, our director of religious education, to plan out the agenda for the trip and secure our transportation and lodging. We took a group of around a dozen youth with myself and 3 other adults. We did not get a van. We took an Amtrak train from Baltimore to Boston. We had a wonderful time visiting sites of historic interest to Unitarianism and Universalism and having conversations about what the origins of our faith can teach us today. Along the way, however, there was some tension between 2 of the youths. The mother of one of these 2 youth was serving as a chaperone on that trip. Now, as a half-time youth director in charge of religious education from 7th through 12th grade, my hands were very full, but I felt like I had experienced chaperones on the trip. I noticed the tensions between these 2 individuals, as did the other chaperones. Overall, however, everything seemed to be okay. They got into a verbal altercation on the second to last day, but again, things seemed to be okay after that. I convinced myself they had let off the steam that they needed to. However, when we got on the train back to Baltimore the next day, quite a long train ride that would take us most of the day, it was clear there was still steam. there was still tension. We're almost home, I thought. They'll be fine, I thought. And they were, until the last 45 minutes of the trip, when there was a brief physical altercation. No one was seriously physically hurt, but the hurt and sense of betrayal among the youth was strong. And that's not just the two youth who fought. It was every single young person on that trip. The chaperones, each of whom had a deeper personal relationship with the youth in conflict than I did, took them to their corners and smoothed things as best they could. And as soon as we got all the students safely back to their parents, I called my boss and I told her what happened. "Oh no," she said. "We will address this together," she said, assuring me. I knew that I had missed some vital signs and that there were important actions I failed to take. Now, back at home after the trip, within the next week, the DRE and I held a very difficult listening session with the parents and youth who had been on that trip. We talked about what could be done, if anything, to repair relationships and make amends. After that meeting, my boss and I talked about how I could better manage the program the following year, ultimately realizing that with a half-time schedule, I should concentrate on high school youth only. That would give me more of a chance to build relationships of trust and accountability with the youth themselves and with their parents. I can't go back and repair the harms that were done at the end of that trip. But I am proud to say that when 2 years later, there was another Boston trip where there started to be some signs of conflict, we all addressed it together right away. The youth felt empowered to come to me directly with their concerns, and I had relationships with those youth. That's why they felt like they could talk to me about what was bothering them. We let the youth lead the conversation about inconsistencies they had noticed and ways they felt that we, the adults, had been out of covenant. We listened, we took them seriously, and together we drew up a new covenant for that trip. They'd all had to sign a covenant agreement, and their parents had to sign a covenant agreement with all the permission slips and all the clearances and all the things they had to sign before they even got on that. We took a plane that year. Before they got on the plane, but we drew a new covenant that we truly worked on together. And the rest of that particular Boston trip was a revelation, because we had all agreed together how we would behave together and what we would do if there was a problem. And because we'd done that, we had the tools to diffuse conflict before it really worked up a head of steam. I think the youth on that trip learned a great deal from our explicit expression of our shared lived values. I also learned a tremendous amount, and I think the other adults on that trip did too. We learned what it can be like to truly walk the walk and not just talk the talk of our values. It's hard. It is hard for the adult supervisors of younger people who are actively responsible for their safety and well-being to admit that they are failing at that. I failed at that. But I think so often about the implicit expression of our shared values that happened on the trip with the physical altercation and the null expression that was in there too. Things we did not do. Those kids didn't feel heard or seen. A few in particular were really struggling, and I, did not recognize that fully nor address it sufficiently. Yes, it was good that we did address it directly after the fact, but how much more liberating might it have felt for those youth to have had adults who were not scared to get into the messiness of conflict and hurt feelings with them? how much better would that trip have been for all of us if we'd had some hard conversations and made some repairs and no one had ever thrown a single punch? Y'all, religious education is messy. I mean, being human is messy. Let's be honest about it, right? Faith development is literally for all of us, which means that we are all learners and we are all teachers. Like Kay told us, some of the best way to learn is to teach yourself, right? Is to teach. Okay, we've done this survey before, but since we've heard from a cradle UU, I would love to see the hands. Please raise your hand if you were raised Unitarian Universalist or have been UU for longer than half your life. Okay, I mean, that's a few. That's a few. And now please raise your hand if you have been UU for less than half your life. Yeah, my hand's up too. And it's not just because I'm demonstrating, because I have been UU myself for about 14 years. At the time that I was hired to be a religious educator, I knew full well there were people in that congregation who knew a lot more about Unitarian Universalism than I did. But what I didn't consider deeply at the time of my hire was almost every single one of those youth that I was ostensibly serving as the youth director for knew more about Unitarian Universalism than I did. At the time I was hired in 2016, I had been UU for 4 years. The kids on that trip were all between 13 and 15 years old, but they'd almost all been coming to church and going to RE classes since they were little. They had a decade more knowledge and experience about Unitarian Universalism than I did. Of course, I did have training and resources and a greater experience of the broader world, but still, within that faith context, I was much more a beginner than those children were. In fact, Unitarian Universalism has so many people who discover it as adults, who start their faith journey within UU once they're grown, that across the board within our congregations, the children and the youth on the whole are much more educated about Unitarian Universalism than the adults are. We've heard today about the different ways that people learn. We've heard from Janelle about her experience being raised UU and her desires to want to raise her own kids UU. We've heard from Connie Goodbread about the ways the congregation teaches Unitarian Universalism and our shared values, and the ways in which it does not. And I've reflected with you on the ways that I needed to learn and still need to learn how we can do this faith development thing together. We did a Children's Sunday together in March, and that was before we had any idea that Jesse would not be with us for much longer. And during that Sunday, I joked with you all that we'd toyed with the idea of singing the adults to class. If you were here that Sunday, we're like, what if all the kids stayed here and you all went and did something else, right? And it's a fun idea, and it's a real reflection on the way you churches have done religious education in the past and the ways it works and doesn't. Every Sunday, when we're all together and when we're not, we're all learning about Unitarian Universalism. Kids upstairs are still learning about it, right? We know there are a lot of different ways we learn, and we also know something else. We know that the way children and families and children and people of all ages attend church has changed profoundly in the last 100 years and will continue to do so. There's more that we know. This isn't just UUCR, but in churches and communities across the country, we know that since the COVID-19 pandemic, religious education programs for children and youth have changed profoundly. In some places, they're back to something close to what they were before, but in far more places, they are not. Churches are trying new approaches, having serious but excited and open. It's like, I'm so excited that I forgot where I was on the page. I'm excited. They're having excited and open-hearted conversations about how we can learn together on Sunday mornings and all the time. One thing I was definitely taught when I became a religious educator was that I am not the only or the primary educator. Kids learn their faith tradition at church, in classes, and at home. They learn it from other trusted adults in their congregations they get to meet and learn from and teach when they gather for intergenerational learning and fellowship. So I started on a personal note, and I will end on one. I do not and will not have biological children of my own. My nephews are grown adults, and even my friends' kids are mostly getting older by now. But I treasure children. I want the best for them. A friend of mine always says, there is no such thing as other people's children. This is why I don't want to send a single adult out of the room today. I want us to all stay in it together. I found both volunteering with and then serving professionally children and youth to be one of the single most rewarding things I have ever done with my life. We have an amazing, beautiful opportunity here. We are at the start of something, the next bend in our journey as a congregation. Whatever our religious education program looks like in the future, we do know it will not look like what it did in the past. And that's more than okay. That's exciting. We can build a Unitarian Universalism that grows and shifts and learns from its mistakes and does better and instills within everyone of every age a sense of wonder and joy at the better world we dream about. There is no more important work in the world. May we give ourselves to it fully, deeply, and joyfully. So may it be.
Experiment. Make it your motto day and night. Experiment, and it will lead you to the light. The apple on the top of the tree is never too high to achieve. So take an example from Eve. Experiment. Be curious, though interfering friends may frown. Get furious at each attempt to hold you down. If this advice you'll only employ, the future will offer you infinite joy and merriment. Experiment, and you'll see.
Thank you, Scott, for that beautiful gift of music. The work of this congregation and the learning of this congregation is not possible without the time, talent, and treasure of so many. The ushers will now gratefully accept the offering.
When we are gathered for a time of worship and of song, let none forget the joys and griefs that mark each path of life, and thus we reach for those who love. We reach for those those who love. For you shall pass, and time is wise, and countless seasons turn. So day by day our years increase, until at last by life released, our spirits shine like stars. Our spirits shine like stars.
Thank
Good morning. My name is Sally Garber, and it's my honor to represent the Caring Committee this morning. I have several announcements, so please bear with me. First of all, Jane Harrison wants to thank you, every one of you who assisted and helped with Spike Harrison's celebration of life. And I'd like to make a special thank you to members of the Caring Committee who helped. Those were Terry Smith, Linda Wood, and Pam Yates. Also, a couple people stepped in that I'd like to recognize. They saw a need and they helped meet it, and those were Peggy Wells and Hugh Wells. So thank you so much for helping all of us on Friday. I have several other things I'd like to share with you. First of all, this is a message for all of you, and that's thanks to the generosity of the members of our congregation. Our April special collection recipient, Sexual Assault and Awareness, Sarah, will receive a check from UUCR for $2,670.60. Very impressive. This gift includes $997.60 in cash we collected during our March 19th worship service. UUC members, you'll have the opportunity to help select the 4 special collection recipients for next year by casting your votes on the ballot at our upcoming annual meeting. I'd also like to share with you that Corky Werner's memorial will be held on June 6th at 2 p.m. in our sanctuary. If you happen to have Aloha attire, please feel free to wear it then. And then a concern from Betsy Biesenbach. Please wait for the AV team to cue the bell ringer. If you don't, it kind of messes things up. So let's watch for that next time. Now, if you have a joy or concern that you hold in your heart, please come forward during the music meditation to light a candle. Thank you. May our prayers be heard and our hearts be restored.
Thank you, Sally. Thank you for everyone who shared, whether out loud or silently, in this important ritual honoring the joys and the concerns within the community. I'm going to light this candle today and I didn't, Janelle and I talked about this and we both were like, oh, we'll keep it under 10 minutes. And then neither one of us did. So knowing that we are, and it was worth every minute. It was absolutely amazing to hear from you. I'm glad we had every bit of it. So I didn't get to drop in a note about this before, but I'm going to light this candle for every parent of a child in this congregation who came to a meeting we had this morning before service. Tell me about their hopes and dreams for what religious education can become at this time of transition in our congregation. So I'm lighting this in their honor. And as I do each week, I will light a final candle for all of those who are joining us online on YouTube. You may not physically be present in the sanctuary, but your spirit is in the room with us. And these beautiful flowers still here from Spike's Memorial on Friday. Yes, we watched the candles. Everything is okay. They're beautiful. Thank you, Jane, for leaving them here for us to enjoy today. If you'll join with me for a brief moment of prayer and reflection, settle yourself comfortably in your seat, what that may mean for you here. If you feel comfortable closing your eyes, maybe softening your gaze. Spirit of life, whether we find this audacious faith when we are children, or when we are young adults, or when we are adults, or when we are older adults, let us learn what we can about the promise that it holds. There are things that we can do together that we simply cannot do alone. Ways to translate our desire for a better world into real change, one relationship at a time. Place where we can learn and grow with one another as we learn about one another and as we teach one another all of the ways to be in this world as we dream of a better one. So may it be.
And now, as we draw close to the end of our time together in worship this week, we turn our attention from the joys and concerns within our own hearts and to the work of the week ahead. We'll begin with a few announcements. It's been a long service, and I bet you wish I'd say there are no announcements. We can go on. But no. However, there are good things coming up you should know about. Next Sunday, May 10th, is our annual flower communion service. Please plan to bring a flower for this ritual. It can be from your own garden, from the grocery store, or even one you picked from the side of the road. We will each bring a flower and then select a different flower to take with us as a reflection on the unique beauty of friendship. The following Sunday, May 17th, is a very special day. At long last, we will welcome Reverend Dr. David Jones back to our pulpit and all our friends at Williams Memorial Baptist Church back to worship with us. David was originally going to be with us in January, but you may remember that we had a little weather trouble that kept that from happening. That's better than the skunk issue, right? We had issues. Please plan on bringing something to share that day and plan to stay to welcome our partner congregation, Williams Memorial, to share food and fellowship with us. Keep an eye out for more information on this celebration from our fellowship committee chair, Bonnie Rich. And finally, this morning, we welcome Judy Nelson and Charlie Fisher, co-chairs of our stewardship committee, to give us a report and update on our recently completed campaign fund.
Oh.
Wait, sorry, that was the one. Sorry.
I was going to say, wait, what?
Thank you. I'm Charlie. My pronouns are he, him, his. Oh. Yes, hi. So we have our final numbers for the annual pledge drive. Let's start with $139 pledging households. I just want to let this number sit with you, 139. And actually, Judy, we got one more this morning. We are now at 140. So that has increased from last year 33%. That is outstanding. I am so humbled by your dedication. We had an ambitious goal this year, especially given that we are still in the giving phase of a capital campaign. So now, Judy, will you do the honors of revealing the other reveal? Okay. Thank you, Scott. 319,718. So we came awfully close to meeting our goal, and this is a success. We got close enough that we were able to meet all of our baseline obligations, and we will be able to pursue many of the aspirational elements that have been proposed. So great job, everyone. Now we have to thank those who got us here. Thank you first and foremost to all of you who showed your commitment to the church and completed your pledge cards. And you can still do after service if you see me and Judy. We're out of pledge cards, but we'll get something together. So next, our intrepid pledge captains, Catherine Hoffman, Claire English, Larry Rhodes, Carol Hendricks, and Terry Smith. Let's give them a hand. They helped plan the events we held, stayed after church to answer questions about the pledge drive and get people signed up, and kept me and Judy motivated throughout the campaign. Thank you, captains. We couldn't have done it without you. Thank you to the board for working with me and Judy as this was our first pledge campaign. Big thanks to Gordon for his calm and steady leadership and Cindy for her visionary ideas. Rev Jen, thank you for your guidance and support. Thanks to Jimbo Harshfield and Heather Mason for keeping all of the numbers straight. And thank you to Trina and the coffee team for helping as we set up for special events. Thanks to Susan Cousins for everything she does, which is everything. And Scott, thank you for all of your musical flourishes. And finally, to my friend and co-conspirator, Judy, thank you for your bottomless supply of enthusiasm, and thank you for your friendship. And for anyone I've inadvertently left out, thank you, thank you, thank you. So we wrap up this phase of the yearly pledge drive, and I'll leave you with a quote used by one of my favorite authors, Willa Cather. "The end is nothing. The road is all."
% increase in the number of pledgers. That's amazing, y'all. That is amazing. Thank you, Judy and Charlie especially, but everyone who was a part of this wonderful effort. It's been fantastic to witness, which is mostly what I did, honestly. Kay, I will now invite you to extinguish our chalice. We're 5 minutes over, y'all. That was a lot. That was a packed day, but this is great. We are extinguishing our chalice as we do with Unitarian Universalist churches, congregations, and communities across the nation and the world, knowing the flame of our faith continues to live, grow, as we learn, teach, and do in our hearts. And as we have learned that we're going to end on Surprised by Joy again, so my benediction to you all is go forth with an open heart and curious mind to be surprised by joy in the week ahead.
Join me as we sing this again. I'll be curious to hear your reactions. I find that verse 2 resonates alive in a wonderful way after this morning. Surprised by joy, no song can tell, no thoughts and compass, here we stand to celebrate eternal love, to reach for one another's hand. this, best gift alone to mortals given, the love of parent, love of friend, attunes our hearts to bliss of heaven. Faith, hope, and love here come alive. Life's deepest treasure is made known when in forgiving, giving all inseparably two are as one. So may it be.